Since the pandemic started in the year 2019 and towards the end of 2019 to 2020, the statistics show that just in the year 2020, there was such a spike in drug overdose related death. And in 2020, that number, the people who died from drug overdose, was 90,000 just here in the US. And compared to in year 2019, that number was 70,630. It's such a huge spike. Even though these are individuals who have experienced this, a lot of it has to do with how they were feeling at the time of that event. And a lot of our time we spend great deal at our works. And it is so important as employers, as leaders, to take care of the well-being, the mental well-being of the people we work with, to make them feel really cared for. And that is something that I spoke about this week, and that's the topic we're going to talk about today: how to make your teams feel cared for. If we haven't met before, my name is Fahim Karim, and I'm an employee engagement expert, and I work with companies that are faith and value-based by helping them create a safe container where everyone gets to vocalize their opinions and their ideas. Your managers get to lead and listen, and your employees feel empowered and part of the team, and your company continues to grow and innovate. So if you're watching this live, I would love to hear from you. Please state in the comments, what are some of the things you're seeing in your organization when it comes to showing care for your employees or to your teams? What are some of the things that you've seen has worked really well? Or maybe what are some of the challenges that you're facing? If you're not able to put that in the Facebook Live, feel free to text it to me as well. You can send it to me via LinkedIn messaging, or you can send it to this phone number 302. Let me just pull it up here. And you should be able to do that as well. Feel free to text so I can get your questions. 302-462-3635. That's 302-462-3635. Feel free to send me a text and I'll try to answer your questions. So, as someone who's worked in billion-dollar businesses with offices across the globe and who lived in 4 different continents, I know what it is like to create a harmonious team and how important that is to get things done, and also to make everybody feel safe and happy and productive to work as a team. So in this week's video, one of the examples I gave was from Elon Musk. Back in 2017, he did announce something amazing, which is that every single employee that was, that might have been injured because of the manufacturing of a particular, whatever manufacturing the car or any equipment, he wanted to be personally notified. No exceptions. On top of that, he would visit them or call upon them, and he would perform the task himself. So as leaders, when we show to our employees that we sincerely care and we are there with the trenches with them, and that we are there to support them, and that we don't really fake it. It's not like a photo op situation, right? But it's truly a genuine care. Then employees really would start to trust the leaders that they're working with, and in the process they would be more engaged. And you can see how Tesla is doing so well right now, building plants across different locations. So, of course, not everybody is able to do that. And so in today's live, I want to give you some practical tips that you can apply today that will make a huge difference in your teams. One of them is learn to say no in a diplomatic way. What do I mean by that? What do you mean by that, Fahim? Do you mean to tell me I need to say no to my employees? Nope. What do I mean then? You see, I'll give an example. As a product manager who was involved in creating million-dollar apps, one of the amazing things my Scrum Master would have to do is to manage the stakeholder expectations. Because you see, I'm not the only product manager. There are other stakeholders that have different things that they would like to see happen in a particular sprint. Now, what do I mean by that? Like, if you're not familiar with Agile, Agile is a particular methodology that is used to build apps. And in that Agile methodology, the technology team uses 2-week or a 3-week sprint. They call it a sprint. Basically, it's a 2-week thing or a 3-week thing. Within the 2 to 3 weeks, they produce a certain number of things. Then they test it. They let you test it. And if everything is good, they put it into production, right? So, but what happens is when you have a cross-functional app that you're building, right, meaning there's various teams that are wanting to get their interest in, their number one things in, it's a very difficult challenge for a Scrum Master to navigate that. So I'm just giving that as an example. Now you can try to think about your own scenario. Like as a leader, maybe your boss is asking you to do 10 different things, right? And you have capacity to, your team only has the capacity to do 5. What do you do, right? So this is where you have to learn. My tip here is to say no in a diplomatic way. How is that? You can just say, boss, no problem. You want me to do this 10 more things? Not a problem. We can get this done, but please let me know which 10 things you want me to remove from the list that we agreed on last 3 weeks ago or 2 weeks ago. Because those items I thought was important, but not a problem. We can put this aside because we are only able to do 10 things in this period of time. So I'll be happy to remove, 10 other things that you'd like me to work on. So that's one thing. Learn the art of saying no in a diplomatic way. Communication is such an important thing. I'll give you an example. I'll give you 2 examples of this, just 2 stories for you to relate to. Number 2, ask your team members individually, how are you really doing, right? In our culture, we're used to just picking up the phone. Hello, Fahim speaking. Hi. Hey, Joe, how are you? Good. What's up, Joe? Good. Oh, what's up, Sally? Good. Right? We just say good. We don't really, and the person who I'm asking this question to also is not used to me really wanting to know. So one of the things I used to do is I said, no, really, I want to know, how are you? Fahim, you really want to know how I am? Yeah, I really want to know. Tell me, Joe. Tell me, Sally. What's going on? And they would be shocked, right? So we as leaders have to do that. The numbers I just shared with you, 90,000 people died of drug overdose just in 2020 because of COVID. It's such a spike in numbers. What if that one person was in your team? And what if that could have been prevented simply because how you made them feel? Isn't that significant enough for us to invest in this particular tool that is so easy to do? You don't have to invest money in this to show genuine care. So the number one thing I shared with you, think about your team, learn to say no. Don't just take more tasks in and dump it on them simply because you don't know how to say no in a diplomatic way, right? Number 2, ask about how are you really doing and mean it. Truly find out, because you will be surprised the amount of stress that person might be going through, what's happening in their life. You want to know, right? And you want to see what those things are. So go ahead and let me know in the comments, what are some of the challenges you're facing when it comes to showing care for your teams? And what are some of the things that has been working for you? Where else you're watching this live from? I'd love to hear from you. And if you're watching this live later on as a post live, feel free to put on the comments what are some of your questions and where are you signing in from, and what are some of the challenges that you're facing when it comes to showing genuine care for your team. So the next tip I want to share is that ask your team member what really motivates them. This is something so important. You see, not every single person likes the same thing, and not every single person is motivated by the same thing. You and I may be motivated by a particular thing, but the other person isn't. right? So it's so important to understand what exactly are they motivated by. So for example, I'll give you an example. Let's say you're working with someone and you talk your colleague and you ask that person, tell me, how are you, what's your family, how are, and that person may start to talk about their children. And then you find out then the children is something very important to them. And if that's the case, please make it a point to know about the children. What are their names? How old are they? Which grades do they go to? And if you have a hard time remembering their names, jot that down in your computer where you can easily access it the next time you speak to that person. Or you can write down in a notebook, whichever is easy for you, where you can easily access it. And when you're speaking to them, mention about the children's name. Ask them, how is your son doing? Last time you mentioned he was having a school field trip. How did that go? Or you mentioned that they were having this thing in their school and there were some challenges the person faced. Well, how was that like? And do it please with sincerity, because people can tell, right? Do it with sincerity and really want to know, and ask them genuinely. Lastly, if possible, right? It's not always possible to do this, but occasionally perform the tasks with them, right? Like the example I gave you from Elon Musk, he would go and perform the task in the factory, right? The same task the person was doing before they got injured. So if we as leaders take the time to really understand the challenges our team members are facing by being in the front line with them and saying, you know what, I'm here, guys, let me help you, let me do something. I'm not above all of this. I too need to know. I too need to understand what the challenges are. How else am I going to know? One of the organizations that used to be here in Delaware, a financial institution which has gone through several mergers, one of the good practices they had is that they would have people from different teams go and sit with other teams and learn. So for example, the IT people who have nothing to do with customer service, speaking to the customer, were forced to listen to the client calls, because then they can understand the challenges the business people are facing with the technology, or opportunities that there may be, or how good the applications are working, right? So by us as leaders performing some of the tasks that others are doing, then, and when they see you firsthand, they see you that, okay, my boss is here, that's really amazing. I mean, who does that nowadays, right? They're here, they're rolling up their sleeve, they're actually doing the work with us. It really is so empowering. It really shows genuine care, and it shows that it's not just a lip service, but you're there. And by doing so, not only they benefit, that you build trust, but you cause something amazing to happen, which is called employee engagement, right? So those are the things I wanted to share with you today. So I wanted to hear from you, well, what are some of the challenges that you're facing in your organization when it comes to employee engagement? And if you found this beneficial for somebody that you know, or maybe your boss, you might want to share it with them. Let them know that this is something you found beneficial. It might benefit them, and follow us right here on the Facebook so that you don't miss out on any of the tips and strategies that I share every week. God willing, until we meet next time, tread softly, speak kindly, and love unconditionally.